types, and that would be for veterans, elderly, and also supportive housing. So Broadway will tie into the HAP contract on the accepted category for the supportive service, the permanent supportive services that it will provide for the unhoused. So the whole entire project of 47 units qualify under the accepted category.
So for those who are new to the commission, I'm going to restate that for you a little differently. She's saying that, my understanding, we qualify under the fact that we can provide 25 units or 25% of the overall total. Is that correct? No.
Not quite.
Okay,
I'll try to clarify.
Thank you.
I think I have it if you would like me to clarify.
Oh, I'm okay with clarifying. So the program allows the greater of 25 units in a project, 25 units, or the greater of 25% of the units in the project.
Okay.
Okay? That's where the program HUD allows us to project base up to 20% of our allocated voucher. We have 2,358 vouchers allocated to the Housing Authority. Of that amount, 20% can be project based. There's an additional 10% that we can project base under the accepted category, and there's specific criteria for that category: elderly, veterans, and supportive housing. And so this particular project will qualify under the accepted category under supportive housing.
Commissioner Bundy.
So through the chair, who pays for the supportive services, from what fund, and for how long? How will these services be paid for?
I can take a stab at that. So with the performers that we have reviewed on this project since day one, these project-based vouchers pay a certain amount for each unit, and the budget for providing those services and management and security of the overall site uses these project-based voucher payments. So this is really integral in the long-term affordability and success of the project, that these vouchers be awarded. Otherwise, we'll be looking at what we're doing on the Navigation Center, applying for grants 2 years here, 1 or 2 years there. At year 5, we're going to need to find another grant funding. This allows a contract for 20 years, correct? 20 years for this to be funded, and for those operations and supportive services, security, management, maintenance, everything all in one for this project.
So just to clarify, you mentioned 20 years. Different than last night, that was 55 years. So Home Key Plus is 55 years, but this is 20 years.
The HAP contract can be renewed. I think Alicia was going to jump on that. Go ahead,
Yes.
Alicia.
Can be renewed?
Yes.
And so the contract can be up to 20 years, and it qualifies for an additional 20 years. So it would be it can be a total of 40 years. So at the execution of the HAP contract, there's the opportunity to add an extension period of an additional 20 years to that contract. So it'll be a total of 4.
And just to clarify, you talked a little bit, Chair, earlier about funding potentially not being there possibly. This time next year, we don't know if we're going to have the HUD funding for vouchers. It's really important, in my opinion. Just met recently with Congressman Garamendi and talked about different EPA funding and HUD funding and just different urban forestry grants and things that we have in the works right now. And his recommendation was, as you're moving forward with these projects and they're ready, get them in contract, get the funding allocated, and get it drawn down. Get it moving so that in 6 months, when they, who knows, cut the EPA department and the funding's not there anymore, it's already been allocated and can be spent down. So, and just to give us a little bit more of a, I mean, I don't want to use a scare tactic, but a wake-up call, our HUD program manager was let go 2 weeks ago. So we have no one to call Previously, we were doing weekly check-ins with all of our projects and programs, with our head manager, Alicia and myself and Brianna, just making sure that we're on track and moving things forward timely, et cetera. We don't have that check-in person anymore. So all we have is our regional contact, Tom Angelo, who is wonderful, but now he's got thousands of cities asking him questions. And so we just really don't know where funding in this realm is going to go over the next 6, 12 through this administration. So it's really important to note that as far as these vouchers today. Also, as far as our budgeting and increasing our housing payments so that landlords are getting paid competitively. Councilmember Ledeju explained it really great last night in our meeting because she works for San Francisco Housing Authority. Our HUD programs are funded on 2023 budgets in 25. So automatically we're setting ourselves up for failure through our HUD funding because we're going to be in a shortfall at the end of 2025. Then as we move forward for the 2026 budget, we're looking back and back and back and asking for that gap to be filled. Some cities do budget line items to kind of fill staffing gaps or other gaps for projects. This city is not extremely wealthy, so we haven't been able to set aside. So we're trying to get the biggest bang for our buck and use, our reduced staffing and continue programs that are very important to the community, and this is one of them. So I do feel that these these 70 vouchers that we have left, we need to move quickly on them and get them in contract. With or without this project. With this project, there'll be 23 remaining. So I'll be working with Alicia quickly in the next couple months to do another potential RFP to try and close those 23 if we can. And if we can't, then we're just going to keep playing that budget shell game and trying to keep everything on track and moving forward progressively while the funding is being reduced and the costs are going up. So just a little bit of background for the new commissioners.
Okay, let's get back to questions. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Commissioner Bundy.
Again, through the chair, my understanding is that the granting of the certificate of occupancy for Broadway, ownership of the property will then shift to the city of Vallejo. Is that still true and correct?
That is outlined in the operator agreement that will be going to City Council on May 27th.
So then I have questions for Director Jones. With project-based vouchers, when they are granted to the address, they stick with the address. Can you give us sort of a timeline and specific steps for transfer of these units to the new owner, the vouchers to the new owner?
The vouchers stay with the project. So if the city takes over, when the city takes over the project, the city takes, they assume the contract. So the contract just automatically transfers over to
That's an automatic transfer?
Well, of course, we have to gather the ownership documents, but yes, it would be an automatic transfer to the new owner, and the new owner will assume the existing HAP contract.
And some of me, I'll make I have very little confidence in firm. When you took this project on in 2022, you were out of compliance with the IRS. Currently, I look today, the expiration date of the charitable organization status, it ended on the 15th. I don't have confidence in your organization's ability to submit timely paperwork. How can you provide me that confidence?
So the date of the 15th, we filed for an extension prior to that. So the 2024 forms will be submitted shortly, but we are in compliance. You can actually see it's publicly available information. We're in good standing. I wasn't a part of Firm Foundation at the time when this project started, but my understanding is that there was a CPA that was hired professionally to file some of the forms back in 2022 and didn't file them when they were supposed to. And as soon as that came to our attention, we resolved it right away. And we are in current good standing, and we have that good standing is also made retroactive.
And Gillian, why now and why not wait until the city is the owner of the building to grant these project-based vouchers?
That's actually a great question. The reason I touched on it briefly earlier, the process takes time. And without having our HUD program manager, my estimate prior with Sereno Village was 90 days. If I don't have a program manager, it could be 120. I'm not sure how long it will take. So that's why. So what we do is we, per HUD regulations, we get to the point where the project has the inspection. Once the project passes, and we had an independent inspector go out yesterday, speaking of timeliness, and did some final inspections, some punch list items, everything was rectified and ready to go as far as HUD regulations are concerned. So at which point the inspection is passed, then we can start that process. Your recommendation, then it needs to go to the Housing Authority Board. Then it needs to go to HUD for that agreement review. And that timeline of 90 days for that HUD approval could be longer. So what I don't want to happen, I don't think what any of us want to happen, is the property is ready to occupy June 10th. And we don't have the funding until July, August, September, October, and it sits vacant. So there is a backup plan on that stopgap for that timing. The city receives opioid settlement funds from violators involved in a lawsuit. So it's not technically city general fund money. It's lawsuit money that we're awarded. Council just at the last meeting awarded some of it to the iHeart Mental Health mobile mental health program, which is wonderful. And we will be asking them to allocate some of that remaining funding for operations for this project so that there's no gap, that it's not ready to open and HUD is still processing. But that timeline is just very sensitive to where we need to get the inspection and then it's ready to roll and then we have to wait until the funding is provided.
Commissioner Bundy, before you jump in, so I want to make sure we're capturing some of these kind of set-asides so that we can have a firm recommendation at the end of this. And so what I understand to date, I want to make sure our new commissioners are tracking, is that Commissioner Bundy, because of his background, has done some research, and so have all of us, on the current proposed operator of Broadway and services, and there's some concerns about their ability to do that part of the job. Because of history, timelines, and the long delay of this project, the community also has concerns. So in our due diligence process, what I hear Jillian saying is that this is a stopgap measure. We will have ownership of the property soon thereafter. And so there's some things we can do about that. And so right now, as you're formulating your recommendations and taking your notes, please take all those things into consideration, because I'm gonna have a big, huge ask for you in about 20 minutes, okay? Awesome. All right, you good down there? Okay, awesome. All right, Commissioner Bundy.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Another one for you. Measure P funds were lent to this project. What was it, 2.3, 2.6 million dollars?
I think 2.6.
I think it's 2.6.
When ownership of the building transfers to the city, what provisions are in place for repayment of that to Measure P? What happens to that?
So, kind of out of the purview of you all, because it's a city council purview, the budget, but I will give you the information I have. So it will be up to the city council's discretion if they want to pay themselves back. If they have an extra 2.6 in the general fund and they want to put it back into Measure P, they can do so. But they also have the ability to not pay themselves back and leave the loan sitting on title on the property. So there are options here, and I think that council has pondered many of them. The city owning it long-term, the city finding a different owner-operator like we did for Blue Oak Landing, where Eden owns and operates. So there's a lot of different opportunities here, and they haven't given any specific direction beyond their own ownership at this point. And so they, at that point that ownership transitions, they have the discretion to either pay themselves back or leave the loan on title.
And follow up there, have you done calculations to figure out how that impacts or what impact that has on the permanent supportive services and the ability to provide those services?
Well, if the PBVs are granted, there is no impact if The city itself owns the project. The PBVs are granted, and it pays for operation, maintenance, security, and all the things I outlined prior. They just have an outstanding loan to themselves for 2.6 million sitting on the books. But it doesn't impact operations.
But if they need to collect on the money, where does that money then come from in the building?
It wouldn't come from the building itself. It would be the city as its own owner deciding if they want to pay themselves back in their own general fund or not. It's kind of like us in our own bank account. Oh, I have a little savings account over here. I'm going to borrow from it. And at some point, I may put that money back in my savings account, or I may just say, you know what, I'm going to keep owning and operating and not put the money back. So that's the city council's discretion.
So the loan's not tied to the address?
It is tied to the address, but because the city gave the loan and the city also owns, that's how they have that discretion.
I think my overall recommendation, and it's not to be an impediment, my overall recommendation is to wait until the city is in possession of the building.
So,
project-based
question,
vouchers.
if we moved forward with a recommendation
It's-
or Housing Authority Board moving forward, we could put a provision or request that the HAP contract is not executed up until the point the city owns it. That could be a request the commission could consider.
Yeah, I have little confidence, right? We're $11 million over on what was projected as a $15 million project, right? The numbers continuously slide in the wrong direction for this.
Yeah, I'm happy to come back with budgets and review those and review the challenges that the project underwent. Again, we're at about a $560,000 per door cost, which is very low in Solano County and very low for the state. The state average is $900,000 a door. Blue Oak Landing was $700,000 a door. So I understand that the projections initially were one, a lawsuit came, a bankruptcy came for the contractor, work stopped, supplies increased, I'm trying to think of the word, the staffing, what is the word for labor? Sorry. Labor increased, supplies increased, and yes, there was a gap. We also had a partner, Shelter Inc., who originally was going to potentially be owner and had committed a couple $1 million to ownership, and then they pulled back. So there were a lot of different things that affect the budget. And again, in 23 years of affordable housing, this is the challenge of affordable housing projects, piecing together funding that doesn't always fly, taking calculated risks, knowing that challenges can come. It's not a for-profit market rate project where there's this huge net profit that you can eat if you need to. There is little to no profit, and so that area, that stopgap, isn't as big. There's not as much to eat. So yes, it's been challenging. But in all the years, I've worked with Burbank Housings and Habitat for Humanities and very large nonprofit developers who have also struggled with similar issues on projects and similar budgets. And as I was moving forward with this home key funding, just for the commission's information, we reached out to all of the 6 other cities that did the exact same type of project, permanent supportive housing that was modular. And every single one of them was over budget and over timeline. It wasn't just a Vallejo issue, it was a statewide issue. So that being said, that's just background information, not excuses, but just information for you to consider. This is an exciting project. It has taken a long way to get here, and we have persevered through some really challenging hurdles to bring this to benefit our community. I'm really proud of the work we've done. It hasn't been perfect, but we're close, and it's going to be a positive impact.
So thank you so much. I'm going to turn it back over to Commissioner Bundy. I want to make sure you have all of your questions asked. Those are your questions? So I want to go to this place, and this is the place I want to go to. I want you to pick up what I'm putting down here. We have a really big problem because we just, if you will, passed on potential funding that in my calculations would have been a potential funding stream for additional money to combat homelessness. Notice how I'm choosing these words very carefully, that I'm pretty clear may not reappear anytime soon. And so we have two projects. One is the Navigation Center, one is Broadway. I'm of the opinion it rolls like this, that we ask for everything we ask for, we move forward in this conversation with some contingencies, and those contingencies must be met, and that we see it through till the end, because the option of holding this project up is not an option. It's complete failure. So I want us to talk about what that looks like. So for me, it looks something like this. Julian, I would really like to see some type of performance measures if there is to be a HAP contract before we take control of the property. That those performance metrics are doable, achievable, and standard, such as we don't want to split hairs about whether the paperwork is in or not, just get it resolved. Things like that. Just honestly, let's not do that because the public doesn't understand that. Quite frankly, people go to the DOJ website all the time and they can read for themselves. And then we look like we don't really know what we're doing. And then we have things, that are said in our community about whether or not our staff is competent. When I hear that, and I know how many hours this staff puts together to maintain this commission and housing for the city, I go into explosive mode because I do think we're doing the best we can with what we have, okay? Number one. Number two, so there's some type of performance metrics. So I'm gonna ask you to, since I noted, Jillian, that you sit not only on the Continuum of Care Board, but on several boards, you can help us figure out what those contingencies are, right? And then the second thing I'm gonna ask is for commissioners to put what they're thinking in writing, because last night I heard something in the meeting, and I know you heard this, which is there's a contractor that believes that these 70 vouchers were given to their organization. And so, am I misspeaking, or did I, too much coffee?
No, you're right. There was a misinterpretation by one of the applicants on the Admiral Callahan Hotel. He did apply for some vouchers in the last RFP, and he was not awarded. We have a administrative plan that is a guidance for the city, kind of helps add more additional information beyond the HUD regulations. And so we had listed several projects that were in process, and so he thought that was his approval. Unfortunately, as you know, and the new commissioners are learning, this is the process for approval. You submit your RFP, it's scored. If it qualifies, it goes to Housing Commission for recommendation, Housing Authority Board for approval, and then to HUD for approval. He didn't go through that three-step process. He thought just because it was listed in the plan as an opportunity and an option for the city that he had the approval of the vouchers. Councilmember Ledesju explained to him, because she works in a housing authority as well, so she explained it to him in the meeting. I explained to him in the meeting. Alicia explained again in email today and attached all the documentation that he wasn't qualified to move forward through the process, and I just think he doesn't want to hear that. But unfortunately, he was not awarded through the required HUD-regulated process.
So given that being another conversation that sits somewhere on our table, I want to be very clear about what we're saying. We're looking at this standalone conversation, understanding that we're not guaranteed funding of any additional type in the near future, understanding that any further delay on this very basic project will be very frustrating to our community, and we need to move forward as quickly as possible to draw down as much funding as possible so that we can at least see ourselves to, let's say, the end of the year. That's my ask of the commission. So tell me,
Through the chair, may I expand a little bit?
one second, please. Yes, Commissioner, and your microphone.
Can't
dear.
hear.
Just piggybacking on what you actually have said. So if that's the case, then why did the funding for Home Key get basically backslash? Like, why that funding didn't come in place if this funding is going to be needed in the long term?
So I'll answer that question very quickly, if you don't mind. So last night, the Home Key Plus projects were denied, and it had a lot to do with the fact that if we don't have the capacity to finish our current projects, the city council did not feel as though we had the ability to take on new work, specifically new scopes of work where we don't have resources. And so to have, if you will, a project go live without some level of support would be a huge risk for the city. Not just a huge risk, but a risk for funding. If it went well, and chances were slim, that would be great. But if it went horribly, it may actually, let's just say, penalize us for future funding. And so the city did not want to risk that penalty sliding over with there being very little chance that we could staff it, do due diligence to the process, and make it work. So that's my guess, my basic assessment of what that was all about. Yes, but no problem. Director.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Through the chair, I just wanted to also, for the new commissioners' information and for the public and those on the commission who may or may not remember this, our funding for the Housing Choice Voucher Program, as Gillian earlier stated, is based on prior year's funding amounts. So with this particular project coming online this year, it goes in the pool of future funding, looking at that future funding, what it looks like. So the importance of this is great as far as funding is concerned, because the funding will continue at its basic level, meaning whatever the end of the year amounts were for the next year. So if funding decreases next year, in 2027, we're going to get 26 funds. It's important to realize any projects that's in line under a AHAP or a HAP contract, HUD will honor it.
Now, I want to say, Shari, can I see you for a second, please? Can you come in? I want to also say that part of the reason why this commission is struggling with this conversation is that there were a previous HAP contract that didn't go so well. Nod, ACM, nod, there you go. And so there's conversations about how to make this work specifically for this project. So thank you so much for that. Commissioners, any more? Commissioner Patrick? No. All right.
Through the chair. Through the chair. Director Jones, do you operate on fiscal year or calendar year?
It depends on what part of the program are you referring to. Are you referring to the program year or the funding of the program?
The funding of the programs and housing choice vouchers.
It's based on calendar year.
So we have until December. Okay, I'm going to go now. Commissioner Cassidy, question, comments?
None for me.
Okay. Commissioner Stulin, question, comments?
I don't have one right now. Actually, I do have one. I was wondering, so this would positively impact our community greatly, correct, if we just move forward? But we're worried about the funding portion of it and then Vallejo taking ownership.
90% correct. In addition to that, our concern is the history of operators, contractors performing on their contracts and meeting the letter and delivering the services that they agreed to deliver is Commissioner Bundy's core question. And he's asking that question because in the past, once we approve a contract, we haven't always had performance metrics. And so we would find out a year later or 2 years later sometimes that these contracts underperformed. And what we have when that happens is the budget has already been penned, the resources have already been allocated, and there's no money left. So we're basically saying before we fully fund this, like before we fly, can we make sure that we're in a qualified airplane and we're not going to crash, right? Is what we're asking for. And we're just trying to find the right words to put out there to make our resolution. So when we do vote, I can vote with the confidence that the commission supports me and supports what we're doing. So I want to make sure any question, there's no question you can't answer. This is a very, very critical project. This will determine how we stand next year in the face of homelessness because we only have 2 projects on the book.
Okay, great, thank you. I was wondering, do we decide the performance metrics tonight, or is that something we're going to look at later?
I'm going to ask ACM to come back with a proposal of those metrics from her perspective, and then ask you to think over this until the next commission. We can make a resolution tonight and still have work to be done. So we can make our resolution tonight, and then we can ask her to come back with these performance metrics. And the reason why I want to do that is because you two have to be accountable to our population. When they ask us what do we do regarding this particular project, I want you to be able to have confidence in knowing that based on what we have, we were able to take action, and we understand that we are not penciling any additional work in the city, and that we are not blindly confident that we know exactly all the pieces, right? But we have some things in place. I say that very respectful of the work you've done. Commissioners, are there any other questions? Commissioner
Through the
Patrick.
chair.
Yes.
Through the chair.
Uh-huh.
I was just wondering about the shortfall. I know I read that it was 6 million, but I heard Commissioner Bundy say it was 12 million. How are we going to bridge that, or how is that bridged?
So I'm going to take that question, please, for a second. So I want to share something that I believe to be true. We have a brand new city council, unlike any city council team we've had in the past. And I think that the mayor herself understands this problem well. And I think that overall our city is not planning on mitigating shortfalls. I think overall, if you look at their general plan, which is this huge binder, if you need a copy, I have a copy, anybody wants to read it, has a lot to do with backfilling, but not proposing additional funding. There's not much outside of the general plan, work plan for the city of Vallejo. There's 3 major projects, and this is one of them. Remember, homelessness, development in some of our major areas like, what is that called? Sonoma Corridor, and then there is business relationships throughout the city. Those are the 3 major pillars in my personal assessment. So there was no specific plan, Commissioner Patrick, other than in general, invest, reinvest, perform, right? Invest, reinvest, perform. I mean, that literally is their cadence. If you listen to their agenda, and I don't think that will change for the rest of the year, is, we assess, we work, and we reassess it, and we try to perform on the things we've already committed ourselves to.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm ready to make some resolutions. Commissioner Bundy, are you ready to make some resolutions? He's pseudo vice chair. Yeah, we are. All right, fantastic. Commissioners, looking at the information that we have today and referencing your presentation, what is on the floor for us this evening is to adopt a resolution recommending project-based voucher award and housing assistance payment contract execution for existing housing units to Firm Foundation Community Housing. My ask of this recommendation and resolution from the city, from the commissioners, based on what I think is your feedback, please make corrections, is that there is a performance metric developed by the ACM. There is timely resolution of any outstanding formation documents and accounting records for IRS and DOJ. And there is a requirement that you attend a commissioner meeting every 60 days to report on how things are going. So, standing agenda. If there's anything that I've missed, please let me know. I think that gives you accountability. It gives you performance metrics. It gives you confidence in knowing that if there is a mishap, within 90 days, we will be informed. We will not go a whole year.
Through the chair, 60 days or 90 days? I like the 90 days, just with our staffing resources would be
I know
great.
you do. I Commissioners, what's your vote? I'll go for 60 or 90. Where are you?
I agree 90 days, because she did say the shortfall on the staff, and that one person was handling like all
Okay.
the business.
Commissioner Cassidy, where are you?
I would say 60.
Okay. Commissioner Stuhlman?
I would also say 60.
60. Commissioner Patrick? 60. Bundy? 30.
Oh, no. It's getting
I'm
worse.
trying to give you a little leeway.
We're going to go 60, Jillian.
Okay, so one question, if the city takes ownership quickly after this voucher process is moving forward, then it won't be her coming, it's gonna be me.
Yes,
So
Yes.
every 2 months,
every 2 months.
okay, that may be a challenge, I will do my best. Like I said, I'm also the Economic Development Director right now, so I'm wearing the hats of 5 people working 100 to 120 hours a week. So I just want to set that expectation that I will try my best. And we're 4 people short in ED, not just the director, but 3 others. So
Well, we
I will try
promise-
my best.
We promise that with the information you share with us, we will definitely be your supporters in the community. So as
Thank you
much
so
as
much.
possible, we'll make it happen.
And maybe if for some reason I can't make it to the meeting, I can send like a little memo update. Would that
Absolutely.
suffice? Oh, wonderful.
As
Okay.
long, as long as you appear every other term.
Okay.
So within, let's just say 120 days, we should see you one time. Yes?
Okay, sounds good.
Sounds
Yes.
good. Okay,
Thank
awesome.
you.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
very much.
All right, so with that said, that is the motion on the floor. I have one more question.
I don't know how to phrase this. We have to vote on this resolution as the language exists, correct?
No, I can vote on the resolution with contingencies.
You could add the contingencies. And then we would amend the resolution and send it back to you for signature before
That's
it
right.
goes to city council.
That's right. I would like for whatever the contingency is, that you use it as your standard in the future, so that they don't feel penalized because this happens to be
Mm-hmm.
their project. So keep that in mind as you're thinking about your contingencies.
Would you like me to give a stab at regurgitating what
Yes,
we could
please.
put into the resolution?
Yes.
Okay. So resolution as is with 3 additions that I'm noting. Number 1, performance measures are developed by the assistant city manager. And just FYI, we're already working on those because they're going in the operator agreement. So as that moves forward, I will bring them back to the commission. So performance measures developed by the ACM, timely resolution of all IRS and DOJ required documentation, and updates to the commission every 60 days with attendance every minimal 120 days. Does that adequately
Yes.
cover? Okay,
And I
great.
think where he's going, I know what you don't want to say because I'm kind of reading his notes from afar. Failure to meet these metrics would mean some within termination within 30 days. Can we have a termination clause in there?
I don't know if we can do a termination clause.
Not
'cause it's
under
an
the project-based program.
affordability covenant.
Yeah, under project-based program, the contract with HUD is the 20 years. So
Okay,
we
so-
can't cancel the contract unless the owner does something really egregious, like fraud or something
Yeah.
like that. But we can't terminate. Once the contract is executed, it's executed for 20 years.
Can I ask the city to take control of the property if they fail their performance metrics? Because that's
We-
where he's
we
going.
have that
He's
written.
going to this,
Yeah.
Mr. Bundy is going to the place of, this is great, but how do I hold it accountable? So what is, go for it. Go for it,
Yes,
please.
through the
Jim.
chair. He's hitting the nail on the head, and we have that written into our operator agreement. If the performance metrics are not met, that the city has the option to take over ownership if we don't own it and fire the operator and hire a new one. And we have that. So what I need to do is, we're finalizing those negotiations this week. And then, like I said, on 5/27, the council will be considering voting and adopting that contract. So I will send it to you all before the 27th for your review. And if you have comments or additions or questions, you can just reach out to me directly after you have that draft of the operator agreement with the metrics, with the clawback clause, ownership, operations.
Awesome.
Yes.
I think I got the clause in my head. So if I were to read the recommendation, adopt a resolution recommending a project-based voucher award and housing assistance payment, contract execution for existing housing units to Firm Foundation Community Housing. To be executed upon complete granting of the certificate of occupancy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I know that's partially within HUD's
Yeah, but you could
the
add
unit
it.
needs to be approved and basically meet Section 8 criteria for that.
Yeah, you can
The
add
HAP
it.
contract to be granted any, I am well aware of this. Director Jones, I've read the material.
Yeah, you can definitely add that.
It's already in the contract that we can't execute a contract without a certificate of occupancy. So the next step, once the award takes place,
Commissioner Jones,
I'm sorry,
please say any more.
I said no more.
Thank you, please say any more.
Anymore.
Thank you.
My apologies.
Thank you.
The documents that we have to gather is a significant number of documents in order to start the contract. And part of that is the certificate of occupancy.
And I personally add that clause really just for transparency and for some of public knowledge as well.
Okay.
Yeah, it's great.
So given that being said, I think you helped us work through all of our questions. Thank you for standing through this long presentation. I think we're in a better place. I think we've addressed all questions. Let that resolution stand. Let's go for a motion on the floor as stated. You do not need to repeat, but as stated. Can we make a motion on the floor to accept this resolution?
I make a motion on the floor to accept this resolution.
Commissioner Cassidy, can you second that resolution? Let's get you involved.
I second.
Let that stand. Roll call, please.
Commissioners Bundy,
I'll vote aye.
Cassidy,
Aye.
Jackson,
Aye.
Patrick,
Aye.
Smith.
Oof. Undecided. My head is like swinging right now with it.
So you want to abstain?
Yeah, I want to abstain,
Okay.
please.
Stuland.
Aye.
Thank you.
That motion carries. Item number B, conduct public hearing on the draft for the 5-year consolidated plan. I'm sorry, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Conduct a public hearing on the 5-year, conduct a public hearing on the draft of the 5-year consolidated plan for program and fiscal years 2025 to 2030, including the annual action plan and grant funding allocations for fiscal year 2025-2026. Adopt a resolution recommending that City Council approve the City of Vallejo's fiscal year of 25-26 through 29-30 consolidated plan, including the proposed fiscal year 2025-2026 Community Development Block Grant Program and Home Investment Partnership Program funding allocations for submittal to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Okay? So this is a big conversation. It may be one in which I'm going to rely on the existing commissioners. And for our new commissioners, if you've read through this 5-year plan, please feel free to ask any questions. I'm going to let the timer go up. It's currently 8:30. I'm going to give us a few minutes to go through any final questions we have for review of the budget of the fiscal year. I only have one question. For CDBG, is it consolidated plan? Yep. And this is just a question from my knowledge. Director Jones, is it possible to get more money for CDBG?
Through the chair.
Yes.
So the funding for the CDBG program is appropriated by HUD, and there's a formula that they use to determine how much each entitlement will receive. And the new budget that was approved from Congress actually decreased the amount of funding.
Okay.
So requesting additional funding is typically decided by the allocation and the current budget that the administration has. So to answer the question, I don't believe we can.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Just wanted to confirm that for myself. The reason why I asked that question, Commissioners, is that every year we have a process, and we have some really good projects, and I want to make sure that we consider that moving in the future. I also would like for us to understand that given our, on page number 133 of 232 in your packet, and I'm just making this for our knowledge. I would like for us to understand that most of these organizations have multiple year awards of funding. This is not their first year doing this work. And so albeit I will support this budget, I would like to see something change in the CDBG world so that we can help them do more good work, and the ones that are struggling, that we partner them together with organizations that can help them do this work, probably now for a lower budget. So I'm hoping that we start to socialize that message with them sooner rather than later, and not wait until next year to tell them there may be less money. Maybe if they know this year, they can start to look at ways in which they can trim down for next year. And I'm looking at Director Jones, and she's smiling.
I'm smiling because I can't do anything but just look, because
Okay.
we don't have the control over
I
the
know,
funding.
I know. So I'm very concerned about page number 133. Other than that,
So, through the chair.
Yes.
We have our consultant available to do a presentation on the consolidated plan, who will prepare it.
can I take one question, and then
Yes.
we'll have the consultant come, please?
They're online, but yes.
Okay, fantastic. Let me just take one question before we start. Commissioner Bundy. You have a few questions. Do you want the presentation first, or you want, maybe they will tell you something? Let's do the presentation.
Good evening. I'm Jean Adcock with John Callow and Associates. Thank you for having us this evening. I also have online this evening with us a colleague, Keith Lampkin, to also assist in answering questions. So next slide, please. Just want to walk you through the four main parts of the consolidated plan. There is the process, which starts on page 3. Also, you will have the needs assessment, which starts on page 37, and the market analysis, which starts on page 69. These two sections, the needs assessment and the market analysis, are instrumental in helping decide the strategic plan portion of the plan. The strategic plan is a 5-year plan, and then each of those 5-year plans is broken down into the first year annual action plan, which is also included in here. And that starts on page 127 of your packet. Next slide, please. So you do have a draft of the consolidated plan in your packet. It is a draft. HUD did just release the funding amounts last week. As they did not have the actual allocations available throughout the analysis period, HUD's instructions to everyone was to go ahead and formulate your draft plans on the current year allocations, which is what did happen throughout your plan. So the allocation, your funding amounts will change. They will be ready for the final approval of the plan when it goes to City Council in June. The allocation for CDBG that was released last week is $991,521 for CDBG. So again, just to stress that all the funding amounts that you see in your packet are provisional funding amounts, and they will change. Now that is a decrease of about $15,500 from the prior year, which is a little more than a 1.5% decrease from the current funding level. Next slide, please. This will be where you will start looking at your information for the first year action plan. Next slide, please. Again, just emphasizing that the funding levels were provisional, and the whole plan was based on the provisional funding, and HUD just wanted everyone to know that this was provisional funding to move forward for all the cities to make their plans and move forward to be able to have them approved on time so that you could start your fiscal year on time. Next slide, please. This is the expected resources section of the first year action plan. This section does start on page 128 of the consolidated plan. As you can see, this chart was originally created with the estimated funding of the $1,007,000 for CDBG. And the columns going along the top there is the annual allocation expected of the expected program income, any prior year resources that are still on hand for a total of the first year funding for CDBG would be 2.5 million. The last column there is the expected amount available for the remaining 4 years of the comp plan. Underneath CDBG, you have the expected funding levels for the home program. Next slide, please. This slide has the expected resources that were available from the home ARP funding and also the NSP funding, which those, as you can see, do not have any new allocations, but there is prior year resources available, so therefore they still have to be part of the action plan. Next slide, please. This is the annual goals and objectives section, the AP 20. It does start on page 133 of the comp plan. This again is, as the chair mentioned, this is where the projects are listed and the actual expected projects, the funding levels, the outcomes for each project that is expected to take place over the first year of the comp plan. Again, these funding amounts will change based on the actual allocation that we just received. It does take a little time to go through, adjust all these dollar amounts, and finalize the projects. Next slide, please. This shows the remaining projects that are also expected to take place in the first year action plan. So a total of 10 activities and projects that are expected to take place throughout the year. Next slide, please. Now this, starting with this action plan or with this public hearing this evening, this will start the 30-day comment period for the action plan. We encourage any and all comments from the commission, from the public, any other stakeholders. All these comments will be included into the final draft of the comp plan, which is why it is presented as a draft along with the funding levels that were expected. And everything will be finalized by the end of the 30-day comment period when it comes before the city council for final approval. We'd like to thank all the help that we received from the Housing and Community Development staff in assisting and preparing the plan. And that will conclude my presentation. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for your work on this. So this is always a interesting time of year. There's a few questions about the budget.
Through the chair, could you open the public hearing, please?
Sorry. The public hearing is now open. Members of the public wishing to have a conversation about this agenda item may do so, and we are now open for questions. Public hearing is now open. I now have a question. My question is, every year this is interesting. Can you go back to your slide for me and there's something I saw on your slide I don't think I saw in the presentation. It says slums, demolition of slums. Yeah,
Is that for NSP money?
Is it for NSP money?
That's, I think we should use that money.
It says
For
slums.
It did say slums.
The slum blight.
Yeah, here. So this
Yes.
$920,000, there's not a lot of slums here in Vallejo. I need to know some addresses and if those funds could be reallocated to other areas. And I just want the director's looking very pensively at me, but can you, sorry, go ahead.
Slum blight is just the general category of funds that HUD uses for certain types of projects. I believe in this case, and if Director Jones would like to jump in on the exact information on what the NSP funds were being used for in the prior years. I believe there was a building that was being demolished and a new structure expected to be rebuilt. If you could please jump in, Director Jones.
Sure, through the chair. So NSP, slum and blight, for the lack of better word, that's a HUD term, and that's one of the eligible activities to use the funds for NSP to address. As we've had many conversations regarding NSP, it's also available for the, the purchasing and development of affordable housing units as well. So that's just one of the, or two of the descriptions used when, deciding NSP, what it means. It's not just slum and blight. It's slum and blight, also for rehab. Is it owner occupied, Chari, for NSP? For the rehab?
It should be a foreclosed property.
Foreclosure. So I would like to make a note that you've reserved $920,000 in NSP for 2025, 2026.
Which was granted in 2014. This is the old money.
Oh, this is the old money.
This is the Sonoma Estates money.
Oh,
This is-
never mind.
This is that fund.
Okay.
It's back.
I'm sorry, I got excited. I thought this was a different opportunity.
So for knowledge purposes, NSP, the Neighborhood Stabilization Program, was federal funding that was intentionally sent out to buffer against the subprime lending complex back between 2010 and 2014. So the city has had this money, the city has had access to this money since that time.
And
Because the money
have we drawn it
exists.
down?
No.
Okay, I will get with you on that conversation because I would like to make sure that the commissioners have a very clear disclosure about whether or not that funding is available and how it can be used. Thank you. All right, fantastic. Yes, I'm going to open up to comments from the commissioners.
Commissioner Bundy here. Page 110 of 232, which is page 59 of the document, the homeless needs assessment has not been completed there. And then on the following page, there's a clause that says if data is not available for the categories, blah, blah, blah. So it should be listed there. So those sections need responses. Right, a lot of the, so overall comment with the numbers, and on page 61 of the document, which is page 112 of 232, the statistics that are cited here are county-wide statistics and not City of Vallejo statistics. The point-in-time count does parse out City of Vallejo, so we have those numbers available. On page 62 there's a statement that makes sense in almost every city in the country with the exception of Vallejo. So it says people who are white as well as Asian Americans are well underrepresented in the homeless population, both nationally and locally. For Vallejo, because our demographics are so unique in that we have about a quarter white, a quarter black, a quarter Asian, and a quarter Latino, we actually have an over representation of white people in the unhoused population and an over representation of black people both. Yes. Which logically it doesn't make sense when you hear it because you're like, how can that be? But locally, our Asian and Latino populations do better comparatively in terms of housing access. And then, so addition error. And these are ones, huh? So page 168, you're telling me is what I noted?
I think so.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it again. Page 168. Page 168 for the tenant-based rental assistance, the 5-year budget was $2,250,000. Further into the document where it lists the per-year number, it lists it as $750,000.
Page 184, Commissioners.
Those numbers need to be rectified because if we annually dispersed $750,000 for tenant-based rental assistance, the actual cost of that would be 3.375.
So I'm going to slow that down for.
We would be over budget.
Slow that down for new commissioners. The way he gets that number is on page 184 out of 232, item number 2, TBRA, tenant-based rentals, at $750,000. He multiplied that times the number 4, and according to the document on page 168 of 232, item number 2, it should be 2.2 million, but I think it pencils out at what, 3.75 or something like that. So there's about $1.5 million there's some error in the calculation. So the 2 page numbers again for note is page 184 of 232 and page 168, Commissioner Patrick, page 168. Okay? Yep, So if we can get some resolution to that, that would be extreme. If the consultant is still on the line, could you go to page number, I think it's page number 4 of your presentation for me, please?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry, back to, go back one more. Stop right there, right here. Thank you so much. So for this home, the acquisition home buyers assistance, one of our big blockers is making sure that we educate our homeowners who have units available for our use. We're saying that the annual allocation, there's a 0 there, and I just need to understand the 0 a little bit more.
Through the chair, currently under our home program, we have a VGR from a previous finding on the home program that we have to pay back. So HUD has restricted, but they're not granting us for this current year, but we will grant it in the future. So right now, the 0 is there because we're under a VGR, voluntary grant reduction.
Okay, so everybody, that's the reason why we needed to push resolution number 10 through the pipe. So when do you think we'll be out of the VGR process?
The VGR, we anticipate 2027.
So team, I want to make sure. I think I'm going to like Commissioner Stuland. Her face tells me everything. How are you? So 2027, we anticipate being out of VGR, but until then, this 0 will be here until 2027. Okay, all right.
That's an estimate through the chair.
Thank you. All right, just want to make sure we're all understanding why we're taking the time to review this. Awesome. Commissioner Bundy. While Commissioner Bundy is getting his thoughts together, Commissioner Patrick. Any questions? No questions? All right. Commissioner Stuland, questions?
None at this time.
Commissioner Smith, questions?
Not at this time.
Commissioner Cassidy, questions?
Not at this time.
Awesome. So we're going to give Commissioner Bundy a couple more minutes to figure his calculation while we wrap up this conversation. So understanding that this is now going out for public review for the next 30 days. The recommendation is to conduct a public hearing, adopt a resolution recommending that the City Council approve the City of Vallejo's fiscal year 2025 to 2030 consolidated plan, including proposed fiscal year 2025 to 2026 Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnership Program, funding allocations for submittal to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Given that being said, and noting the corrections that Mr. Bundy has stated, especially with the absence of information that's noted on page number, help me someone, is it page number 1? What is that, where's that? Which one is it, where it has zero information about the data? You think it's 168? What did you say? You think it's 168? Okay. I will go look right now. It wasn't 168. Here it is, page 110 of 232, page 112 of 232. Also, corrections as noted on page 168. Commissioners, please keep me honest. Page 168, and then also page 184. Is that right, Commissioners? Page 184 is the other big. We need to make sure we're not at $1 million shortfall in the calculations of tenant-based rental. 184.
Through the chair, we have our admin analyst, Brianna Todaro Ellsworth, who could answer your questions for those 2 questions.
Good evening.
Good evening, Commissioners, and good evening, Jean. Okay, so for the TBRA calculation, if we're looking at section SP 45, these are our 5-year goals. So we're saying that over the 5-year period, we're allocating $2,250,000 for TBRA. And if you broke that down and divided it by 5 and said, okay, we're going to do an even amount each year, you get $450,000 each year, which is what we initially tried to do entering it in the HUD system on IDIS. However, it flagged it because the HUD system expects us to allocate every single dollar of those prior year home and CDBG funds during year 1. So when we initially entered that $450,000, they let us know that there was a discrepancy. If you look at section AP 15, expected resources, these are our expected resources for year 1 of the plan. And you'll see that prior year resources for home are at $2,104,926. HUD expects us to input all of that for that year 1 calculation on the bottom within the home projects. So that's why you'll see more money with year 1. And then with the initial, if we were to do $750,000 allocated for year 1, then it would be $375,000 for years 2 through 5 to match up with that 5-year calculation.
Okay, so I think I got it, but not really. But we're going to say I got it. So it's not 4 year, it's 5 years. Number 1. Number 2, does all of that, what you just said, equal out to the 2.25? 2.2, does that equal out to the 2.25?
Through the chair, yes. I took the $2,250,000.
Okay.
And then if you deduct that first year off.
Yeah, we're good. Okay.
Which is $750,000.
Okay.
We're left with $1.5 million. Divide that by 4. And you can kind of see where years 2 through 5 are.
Thank you so much, Brianna. You're always a great resource to this commission.
Through the chair.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brianna. And I just wanted to add to that. So commissioners, HUD allocates funding for us every year. We don't really get to spend all those every year. So we have unexpended balances year after year. So what Brianna's telling us is in the system, HUD wants us to consider all those unexpended balances. So, it doesn't really make sense at first because what we're just receiving this year is 991 something, but we have taken into consideration the unexpended balances from 2018 or 2019. We have it in the system, in HUD system, we can see how much balances we have, and they want us to put it in the plan that, oh, you're going to spend this much for this year, this much for the next 4 or 5 years.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. You answered the question. Commissioner Bundy?
I also believe, through the chair, I believe
Sure.
that I could also answer the question about the chart with all the zeros on it and the homeless needs assessment.
Absolutely.
Going into IDIS, there was a pre-populated chart that had a bunch of zeros, and I still don't know how to change it. I'm going to go through and figure this out or get in touch with somebody from HUD that can maybe help.
Okay. I appreciate that very much. I thank you. Could you send us an updated sheet when it's prepared?
Through the chair, yes.
Thank you. Okay, so our recommendation still sits on the floor, everyone. It simply says, in this case, we are adopting a resolution to conduct a public hearing and adopt a resolution recommendation for the City Council to approve our fiscal year 2025 to 2030 consolidated plan, and we're including the proposed fiscal year 2025 to 2026 community development block grant and home investment partnership program funding allocations for submittal to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And I just want to make sure before I move from this topic that there are no other outstanding holes on funding that have not been discussed today. There's no other hole that I'm aware of. Fantastic. So we can move forward with confidence. Commissioners, can I get a motion on the floor?
Through the chair, we do have speakers online.
We do have speakers online. Thank you so much. Before we go to motion on the floor, please, speaker number 1.
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to contribute off of the last comment, but I'll contribute this one. My name is Melvin Cowan. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners.
Good
I
evening.
want to thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I want to offer feedback on the draft 5-year consolidated plan and raise concerns about both its contents and omissions, because what's not in the plan is just as alarming as what is. Let's start with the basics. So Vallejo has no active affordable housing pipeline. The one project that has been referenced, the Broadway site, is more than 2 years overdue. In that time, more than 200 Vallejo residents have fallen into homelessness. That's an average of 8 people per month. Now, while the city has yet to produce or support a new affordable unit, the plan should reflect urgency, but it doesn't. The plan itself acknowledges that 32% of Vallejo's unhoused face serious housing problems, primarily from extreme cost burden. Over 4,300 renter households are paying more than 50% of their income on housing. It's clear that the need is high, but leadership and capacity to act remain worrying low. And so we're still key sections of the HUD required plan are either incomplete or missing altogether. There's no evaluation of past performance, despite Vallejo's missing housing deadlines and funding opportunities. There are no local estimates for at-risk populations despite homelessness rising. Data tables like those on overcrowding and single-person households are left blank, and the use of home ARP funds to support the navigation center still unopened is deeply problematic. And those funds are actually ineligible for use for that type of project because the navigation center is short-term housing. There is also inconsistency. The plan cites multiple data sources, 2020 census, 2000 census, and 2016 to 2020 ACS. without explaining methodology. Meanwhile, some sections list partner organizations like Blue Oak Landing and Avion Glen, but offer no evaluation of their outcomes. One reviewer, not a local voice, but someone from San Mateo, was solely responsible for scoring all project-based voucher applications. That raises fairness and representation concerns. And at a time when cities across California are moving swiftly to secure Supernova and Home Key Plus funds, Vallejo missed both windows due to internal inaction. The city is losing out on millions while residents lose their homes. I urge this commission to not simply accept this draft, instead require staff to complete all required data fields, especially past performance and local needs, realign home ARP funds away from inaccessible or delayed uses like the Navigation Center, establish a public-facing housing pipeline with timelines and accountability, and insist on equity-centered leadership, particularly when racial disparities are this clear. We cannot plan for 5 more years of delay. Vallejo deserves a plan and leadership that meets the moment. Thank you.
So, Commission, given that, thank you so much for your comment. I'm going to probably need that in writing. It sounded like you were reading something, and you're happy to send that to our staff, and I'd like to have a copy of that. So I'm going to give a response to the caller. Commission. First, I'm going to take your question.
So through the chair, when we look at tables like we look at SP 45, the goal summary table, the goal outcome indicator column on the far right side, that's the minimum number of people that will be served, or minimum number of households that will be served, correct? There's nothing stating that the city cannot serve more households than that. So like when I look at tenant-based rental assistance, which is line 2, right? If we serve those 18 households per year, that's about $25,000 per household served, which is a considerable amount of money. Like that's great for low-income renters who are really struggling, right? The city can do a lot with that money. So I actually commend city staff for that, right? I think you guys are doing exceptional jobs with extremely limited resources. And I do think we need a better housing continuum in this city. And I also have the confidence that the current staff is working towards that, 100%.
So, thank you, Commissioner Bundy. With that said, please stay there, Brianna, if you don't mind. And just to make sure I'm understanding who caller 1 was, I think you are the executive director of Enough Housing Incorporated, is that correct? Manning, is caller number 1 still on the line?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
could you unmute him, please? I'm sorry, let me repeat my question. I believe that you are the CEO of Enough Housing Incorporated, is that correct?
Yes.
Fantastic.
LLC, yes.
And you recently put together a proposal, which I thought was fairly expansive. And out of the 3 proposals presented last night, your proposal included a myriad of service partners, experts in the field for your housing project to convert Motel 6 off of Sonoma into a low-income homeless shelter. Is that correct?
Into permanent supportive housing.
Okay, permanent supportive housing. I just want to make sure
homeless.
that I have the right person. I was very impressed with your presentation, and so tonight I will share with you, I take your comments very seriously, and we will do our best to answer them. I took copious notes, but, I'm sorry, I took notes, but not copious. And so where I am is this funding is to have a budget approved for low and moderate income housing. I will support opening a conversation for your comments in settings in which I think this commission could be supportive. Tonight's conversation about a budget may not be the place where I can hold that level of accountability the day of. You understand that my view of Vallejo is that in order to make a difference, you also have to have planning and strategy. Not toward you, just in general. What's on the table for the commission tonight is looking at a budget and looking at the numbers that we have with the understanding that we have. I don't want to not give you an opportunity to respond, so I'm happy to agendize your conversations in ways in which, once this budget moves forward, we take some of your ideas and put them at the helm of our thinking. We will be infused by what you have to say. I don't know if your ask of the commission tonight is an acceptable ask. Commission, your thoughts?
Well, through the chair, Melvin, do you also have a copy of the agenda? Because I'd call note to
Yes.
item C coming up next.
Yeah.
Which really, so this is my third year in the commission, right? And in that time, I've seen the commission grow and I've seen the city grow. And I will be critical. I will be critical of the city. I will be critical of myself. I will be critical of nonprofits, right? And I will also acknowledge that the city is willfully trying to move in the proper direction here. So up next, we're going to be talking about rapid rehousing, right? That's an item on the agenda for tonight. That has not been on our agenda for the past 3 years.
3 years.
Right? So I see the merit in this, and I also see the labor and work behind that and visionary direction.
So, please.
I'd like to throw a comment really quick.
1 second, please. I just want to make sure. Commissioner Smith.
I was trying to, can I piggyback off of what?
Yes, you just have to press your red button.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There you go.
My bad. My apologies. I just want to piggyback. You said you've been on here for the past 3 years, you said? Okay. And now the rapid rehousing is just now coming into play on the agenda, and you've been on here for the past 3 years, right?
I've been here for the past 6 years.
And you've been here for the past 6 years. So my question to everyone that's been here for a while, and to, I think the director is new, correct? My mistake?
Here, she is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my thing is, what's the hang up then? Why of the unhoused issues? Why would the I'm just really concerned
Actually,
when it comes to when it comes to the housing. Yes. I really am concerned, because it's not just about the mental health, the disability. It's about the ones with children too, right?
Absolutely.
So why
Absolutely.
Why not get some of these? My thing is, get some of these churches involved, right? And then let them build on, because they are 501c3, some of them, and get them involved, because it's a little bit more, maybe just a little bit more easier access versus, I love HUD, but versus HUD, because HUD have so many qualifications and there's so many speculations when it comes to HUD. So why not get like the churches
Sure.
involved with the neighborhood,
Sure.
so we can speed this process up when it comes to the housing? Because now you got you got some development going into the sustainability area, where they need to be, they just building them up in just any place, and it needs to be stable,
Sure. So I'd like to take this question, because this is a training moment for all commissioners. Our city, at one point in time, was under federal oversight. I think we remember that. And it had a lot to do with the idea of communication and ideas and solutions in a way that was helpful, and that you were able to take action from them. This commission, like many other commissions for our city, were not in a place where they could take action, meaning that there was so much communication happening inside of the conversation. The agendas were not being followed. In order for a city to fall under federal oversight, there are some things you do to qualify for that action. And we found ourselves there. So what we now have, which I embrace as a chair of commission is qualified participants having the right conversations in right context. So part of chairing this commission is to get to this moment. In fact, I think we arrived at this moment 2 years ago when we had the right commissioners having the right conversations and we supported our team. But you cannot have a commission without a team. You cannot have a team without the right commission. So your voice tonight is heard, but so often, and I think that I'm hearing this from Mr. Melvin, you get in conversations, as I heard last night, I'm taking time, caller number 2, please hold on. We get into conversations, and like last night, our city council meeting was 5.5 hours. That will never happen on this commission. In order to sit at this table, you must have the best interests of our residents, support for our staff, and the ability to communicate action in a way that's doable. Everything else sits on a goal sheet. And unless you have those clear lanes, honestly, Commissioner Smith, everything gets lost in translation. So the clear lane is there are things we can do, take action on, and there's things we have to set aside as goals. Because we don't have enough, if you will, agitation in the system in order for those goals to take root. We didn't have the right infrastructure to have certain conversations. It's great to have ideas, but where is your infrastructure? Where is your budget? Otherwise, you fuel our community in a way that they feel more despair, not less. Today, I'm giving them a navigation center. Okay? That's what we're doing today. Bottom line. If it costs you 70 vouchers, it will cost you 70 vouchers, but you will have a navigation center. I'm giving them an operator. Yes? Operator needs to be qualified. We will monitor the operator. We will be giving them Broadway in some form. Yes? But for me to allow the commission to go off Parview and have goal conversations without infrastructure is for us to go back in time where we have no effect at the city council level. Fair? So, Mr. Melvin, we hear your response. Thank you, Commissioner Bundy, for your feedback. You do.
Is it okay if I respond?
It is
to
okay
your-
if you
your
respond, but I'm
Just
going
really
to
brief.
ask you to first commit to sending your conversations in writing. You gave us a list of things. Okay.
Yeah, so just a quick response, and then I'll jump off really quick. So budget informs strategy, right? And so I want to just leave with you all with the home ARP funds, if there could be clarity around that in terms of eligible uses for it. And what I just wanted to prevent is us allocating funds in an area that could be deemed ineligible and then being flagged by HUD. And so I was just trying to raise that as well.
Thank
And so I
you.
want to thank you for your time. And
I'm sorry, we have one more question for you, Commissioner Bundy.
So through the chair, I think some of the historical context is also really important here. Director Jones, you've been here 14 months, for about 14, 15?
No, longer.
Actually, it's been 16.
16 months, something like that, right? So I've been on this commission for 3 years. Prior to Director Jones accepting her position, we did not have a director for the Housing Authority. We were without a director for two and a half years.
2.5 years.
Another really important piece for all of us to note is that the city of Vallejo does not pay for staff in the Housing Authority. The Housing Authority's staff are all paid by percentage points off of our federal grants, right? So what that does is that leaves us with a housing authority that is severely constrained. Personally, I write my city council person and ask them to fund staff at the Housing Authority. I do that. And I encourage everybody to explore that and understand it and make your opinions heard around that, because the Housing Authority is doing solid work and they're extremely limited in the scope of the work that they can
Absolutely.
take on due to staffing.
Okay, thank you. ARC funds, duly noted, Mr. Melvin, and I look forward to receiving your comments to our staff so that we can take note for future. And I appreciate your time here this evening. Thank you. Caller 2. Manning, can you unmute caller number 2?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, this is Isabel Beltane. I had I hope it's not out of turn, but a question about the TBRA. Uh, I, if I understand correctly, in recent years, it has not met its program goals. It has not actually allocated rental assistance to or at least not met its goals. Is there a plan within the plan to now that we have a new housing director to meet those goals?
So I can answer that question for her. So I'll answer that question for her. There is plans to meet our goal. I think what we also need to do is to make sure the programs have some staffing. And I want, I know that having our assistant city manager here more often will help us to broker that conversation as a priority. I think this homeless crisis will warrant us advocating more directly for additional staffing. So my answer to your question is yes and yes. And thank you for your comment. Thank you for your time. Is there a caller number 3? I'm sorry, did you have an additional question?
He has been muted, and there are no other callers at this time.
Thank you so much. I want to thank our callers this evening, members of our community, coming back to our task at hand. We're in item number B, and thank you for your time tonight, commissioners. We're almost done. We're closing the public hearing. Public hearing is now closed. We need to adopt a resolution with some very specific findings. And so, Director Jones, there are some corrections inside of this draft that we need to update. We noted those pages. Thank you, Brianna, for the answers to our questions, but there's still some areas that need to be addressed. Remember, there's some 0 items there. We need to fill those in, and you'll get that information to us. Brianna, also, did you hear some of our references in the document seem dated and not referenceable to the city of Vallejo? Could you take action on that, please?
Through the chair, yes. I'd also like to make a note that a lot of the tables that are in the plan are pre-populated by HUD, and they're pre-populated in IDIS, which is the system we put the plan into. And the pre-populated tables are using, I think it's 2015 or 2016 data. I tried to go through, but you can't edit those tables.
Okay. Well, I would like for you to make note of that, and then I will circle back around. Next meeting, let's plan to have a few minutes with you just giving us an update. Thank you so much. And then he talked about home ARC funds. So Director Jones, you want to give us a quick 2-second on home ARC funds?
Home ARP, through the chair, home ARP funds are funds that are available for different activities, and supportive services is part of one of the activities. And if we could go to the slide, I don't know where it's at on the slide, but supportive services is one of the activities that's eligible along with other activities, and those are funds that are available we haven't accessed yet. So it's fund, we put it in the plan because we have to, because we have access to the funds. And we identify where we can use those funds. We just have to go through the commission and to the council in order to allocate the funds and then utilize them for supportive services.
So I want to make a comment here. It's not an action, but it's a comment. Let's have a conversation about that action, because I do want to say that out of all of the plans, there are a few of them that might have some merit that could make a difference in homelessness, and maybe this is an opportunity to have a conversation. So we will pin at least a conversation about this so that we can have a response. And so I don't want to be defensive or deflective. I want to be embracing and supportive. Let's have a conversation. If there is an opportunity to add more support to homelessness, in addition to the 2 projects we just agreed to do, and we can do it under Home ARC funds, let's have a conversation.
Okay.
What's on the floor, Commissioners, is resolution number B. Can I have a motion on the floor if there are no other questions? You want to do it?
I move that we conduct a public hearing on the draft 5-year consolidated.
We accept the public hearing is closed. You're just going to make a recommendation to accept?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Patrick.
All
can
right, great.
I'll second that.
I know you got it. Roll call, please.
Commissioners Bundy,
Aye.
Cassidy,
Aye.
Jackson,
Aye.
Patrick,
Aye.
Smith,
No.
aye. Stewart.
I was writing.
Thank you.
All right, all right. And thank you so much, Commissioner Smith. You're doing well. I appreciate your honesty. All right, and directness. Thank you so much, Brianna. You may have a seat. Let's go on to item number C. This is to establish a rapid rehousing program and use of funding from low to moderate income housing asset fund, and to amend the fiscal year 2024-2025 fund budget of $100,000 to provide limited-term rental subsidy and security deposit assistance under rapid rehousing program for individuals who experience homelessness or exiting homelessness. Now, I want to talk about this in the context of our question. Given what we know about ARC and what we now see in this allocation, can someone give me some idea of what ARC value is if we were to draw down funding?
ARC value? I'm not familiar with that. Home
Sorry,
ARP?
Home ARC.
Home
how
ARC
Much,
is-
how much money are we talking about?
What is it?
Home ARP, we're going back to Home ARP through the chair?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Just have a question.
Yeah. It's for the project, it's about 1.8. Yeah. So I do, and through the chair, what Director Jones said was correct. There are 4 eligible activities for ARP. So they categorize it in 4 areas.
Yes.
So one of them is supportive services, production or preservation of affordable housing, tenant-based rental assistance, and purchase and development of non-congregate shelter. And so what's in the comp plan is we're planning to use it for supportive services. However, if we do get to that part where they do have it, like a consolidated plan and an annual action plan, Home ARP has what's called an allocation plan, which the commission will see when we present that to you. We hold a public hearing, just like we have done, just like what we're doing right now with the comp plan. So you'll be able to see what we plan to do with the Home ARP funds.
So what I'm asking is a little bit different. So I understand what you said. What I'm asking is, given what we know about the change in given what we know about the change in too many jobs, what we know about the Home Key Plus change last night, that we're not going as a co-applicant for Home Key Plus. Stop for a second.
No, the
Yes.
Home Key Plus is through
I
the
know.
state.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so there's no additional homelessness funds coming through our department outside of our 2 projects.
Through the chair, not that I'm aware of, no.
Very good. So given that being the case, and looking at what your plans are for your home art program. Please keep in mind that the commission may have other suggestions.
Absolutely,
Okay,
absolutely.
we're great. We're grooving. Our recommendation tonight is to adopt the resolution to the City and Housing Authority to establishment of a rapid housing rehousing program and amendment of the fiscal year 2024-2025 Fund 126 Low and Moderate Income Housing Asset Fund, budget by $100,000 to provide rental subsidies and move-in assistance for unhoused families and individuals exiting homelessness. Commissioners, can I get a motion on the floor, please? You may make a quick comment.
So, again, back to what I see as growth and development within the housing authority here, right? I think this is a great program to put on the books. And also last month, you said that optimistically there's a goal to reopen the home ownership program through Section 8, right?
Yes,
So,
yes.
so something that I acknowledge here is that really in our country, intergenerational wealth transfer happens through housing stock. It's the largest form of intergenerational wealth transfer. And what I see is the direction of the Housing Authority, not just in providing housing for folks, but also helping folks to develop equity within the communities that they live within. And that will serve the city well, both this year, next year, and for 50 years to come. So expanding the programs within the Housing Authority, I commend you for that.
Through the chair, thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioners. We have a vote on the floor. Can we take action, please?
I make a motion that we accept the adoption, a resolution recommending that establish the rapid rehousing program and use of funding for low and moderate income housing asset fund.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Can I have someone second that motion by Commissioner Stulin, please? Commissioner Smith, roll call, please.
Commissioners Bundy,
Aye.
Cassidy,
Aye.
Jackson,
Aye.
Patrick,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Stulin.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. Commissioners, you're in the finish line. Item number D, adopt a resolution recommending that the Housing Authority Board of Directors adopt a proposed fiscal year 2025-2026 budget of the Housing Authority in the city of Vallejo. So our recommendation is to adopt the enclosed resolution recommending that the Board of Directors of Housing Authority approve the proposed budget for fiscal year 2025 and 2026 as of July 2025 through June 30th of 2026, as set forth in attachment number 2, as also shown in Exhibit 1 and Attachment 1. Are there any questions about the budget? Commissioners, take action on item number D, please. Motion on the floor, please.
I move that the recommendation for the Board of Directors of the Housing Authority of the City of Vallejo approve the proposed budget for the fiscal year 2025. Again? I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay.
Let's do that again.
All right. I move that the commission recommendation that the Board of Directors of the Housing Authority of the City of Vallejo approve the proposed budget of the HACV for the fiscal year 2025-26, July 1st of 2025 through June 30th of 26, to set forth in Attachment 2, known as the Exhibit 1 to Attachment 1.
Awesome. Could I have someone second that motion, please?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Please roll call.
Commissioners Bundy,
Aye.
Cassidy,
Aye.
Jackson,
Aye.
Patrick,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Stulin.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners, for your dedication. Item number 11, written communication. Is there any written communication?
Through the chair, I emailed you an email that was forwarded to me by Mr. William Baker.
I did, we
That's
received it.
the written communication that we have for today's meeting.
Thank you so much. Will that be what you're sharing later in this? Is that going to be in your report of the secretary?
No, through the chair.
Thank you so much. Written communication, we have an email. Commissioners, please take note. Item number 12A, report of the secretary.
Through the chair, I don't have any report, but we just wanted to let you know that, so we have been providing you with the printed agenda face and the packet, but to save resources, we would at the next meeting would not be able to provide you with the printed materials anymore unless you let us know that you want us to print those for you. You could let me know, you could email me or call me, message me, if that's okay.
So, just so I'm clear, is this a new requirement from our city manager, from our ACM?
Through the chair, no. Actually, it's the resources and that, as you know, we're limited on staffing, and it takes a long time to prepare the packets, the manual packet. So we would like to utilize the electronic method that we have through the Vallejo City website that sends out the agenda and the items. But if if it's requested that a hard copy be provided, we'll be happy to provide it, but please give us a heads up because it takes a few hours just to get the packets ready.
So then what my ask will be on that is, like tonight where there's a ton of documentation, I'm going to ask you to please keep that in mind. On when you know you have a full agenda, you should provide a copy, just because I think some people come from work and we don't always have time to go home and pick up our packets. So on nights where there's a full agenda, a packet of half an inch or more, we would really ask you to keep that in mind for those of us who commute. But if it's a standard night, we should be able to handle it.
Okay.
We will bring our electronic devices. It's duly noted. Report of the city attorney. Item number B.
Through the chair, city attorney is not here.
Thank you so much. Report of our presiding officers, members, Housing Community Development Commission. Commissioner, this is the time in which if you are a participant in the community and you have something that you'd like to share with the commission or the general public, from time to time we make certain announcements. This would be that time. Are there any reports from our commissioners under item 12C? Commissioner Bundy.
I'm also going to give Brianna a shout out here. You did some problem solving around email stuff, right? Apparently I wasn't on the city email list, so I was only getting emails that were forwarded by Chari, which I didn't know that Chari, like for 3 years, Chari's been forwarding those emails. So I wasn't getting agendas from the city directly until Brianna resolved this 2 weeks ago. So thank you for
Brianna.
that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the compliments to our staff. Any other updates from the commission?
Through the chair, can I make one recommendation to the new
Absolutely.
commissioners?
Absolutely.
Please let me know if you're not getting the agendas electronically so we can make sure you're on the email list. So we won't have 3 years of waiting.
But also from the city and not just Chari. So Chari is actually doing a backstop. So Chari is doing a backstop and making sure that we get it. So really you should probably be getting it twice. Once from the city and then once from Housing Authority staff.
Fantastic. So I do also want to make a quick announcement. I know that the Solano County Women's Veterans organization is launching, and they will be live in 90 days, and I'm so excited about that. Being a veteran myself, I'm so excited that we're launching our Women's Veterans program here in Solano County. It's awesome. I know, it's going to be awesome. And I will keep this commission abreast of that change. Next is the report from any ad hoc committees. Are there any reports from ad hoc committees?
Through the chair, there is none.
Fantastic. I do want Commissioner Director, do you have any questions, statements you want to make? Okay, fantastic. Thank you, thank you. Commissioners, let's welcome our new commissioners this evening. So nice to have them here. Under other agenda items, we are very happy that Commissioner Cassidy and Commissioner Stuhlin has joined us. I'm extremely excited. And there's an additional commissioner whose last name is Vance that will be joining as well at our next meeting. Before I adjourn the meeting for this evening, I want to make sure that this is, you understand, one of three major events of your term on this commission. One is getting your financials done, your budgets complete. The second big event is ensuring that you're preparing for our next round of reviews. I think the CDBG is done for this year. Speak,
received-
Director Jones.
Yes, we received funding, and we are, we're starting to the process. We're a little behind because I wanted to make sure we got the funding in our hand first before we start spending money.
So,
Yes.
through the chair.
Yes.
What is CDBG?
Oh,
Community Development Block Grants. So these are ways where federal money sort of comes into our coffers in a way that we can use it not very nimbly, but it allows us to locally control some of the money and invest in community-based organizations.
and they apply for it. So they make an application, and we have a review process that you will be participating in this year coming, and we'll make that happen. The third major thing that we have to do this year is to be a little bit more responsive to our residents in a way that makes sense, right? So we do have people who call in, but we want to make sure that we're responsible and have that information at hand. Those are our other agenda items. I also want to congratulate Commissioner Patrick. You should be sitting on 2 years, is that correct?
Something like that, yes.
Fantastic. And that being said, we want to thank Commissioner Patrick for his 2 years, Commissioner Smith, who just joined us, Bundy and myself are old timers, and we're very happy for Cassidy, Stuhlin, and now Vance. This meeting is now adjourned. The time is 9:39. Thank you for your time.
How long I been here? 6 months, 8 months?
About 7 months.
For real?
7 months.
Wow, 3 months.
You've only missed one meeting, which I'm so happy about. I think because you were on vacation.
No, my husband is, he has seizures.
Okay.
So I go back and forth to like Fresno,
Yeah.
medical center. It's just sometimes their system is, the doctors.
Oh, of course. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But I'm
7 months, 7 months.
Wow.
And you're about to make a year.
Wow.
I know. She said, wow, yes.
Because I'm working on a housing project on Lamora Base.
Oh,